Reversing narcissistic abuse. Don't just heal the narcissistic abuse trauma. Reverse the narcissistic devaluation programming. You have value. You are lovable simply because you exist. Today, we are going to look at the 11-step process that borderlines use to infect you with incurable narcissistic devaluation disorder and how to heal it permanently. Got a whole step, and this is based on somebody's question. So we're going to take a look at the question. Before I do that, again, just to remind you, watching my channel and listening to my analysis is not going to give you any lasting healing. So if you are somebody who's been watching the channel, you watch a lot of videos, you might even get a dopamine rush from the feeling of, oh, I understand this, and feeling like you have some control. And you might feel like you're getting some help, but it's temporary. So if you really want to heal, follow my advice to the letter, completely. And you can have complete healing. But let's, because I got nothing better to do and I do want to be helpful, let's go ahead and take a look at a comment who somebody did ask a question, so I will answer it. So this person says, the worst part about BPD love bombing, I don't know about everybody's case, but in mine, this person says, it made me feel as though the societal narcissistic devaluation had been reversed. Let me address that. So I appreciate the nod. You're using my my nomenclature. I'm in the process of replacing for myself, replacing the word codependence with narcissistic devaluation disorder. So what you mean is, what you really mean here is that other people were hurtful to you. So I can already tell by what you're saying is that when you go out in the world, you feel as though it is a real struggle and you feel really devalued just by being out in the world. So when you say that the worst part about the BPD love bombing is the feeling as though your borderline has healed, or excuse me, has reversed, as you put it, your narcissistic devaluation from society, what that really means is that's mom's job. What you're really saying is the worst part about BPD love bombing is that she healed my boo-boos. This is very old. This is a very old wound. It's not about society's narcissistic devaluation. It's really about when you go out and you play with other kids and they're hurtful to you, you come back home and you cry and mommy kisses your boo-boos and tells you it's okay and you feel loved. So what you're really saying is that you got off on love bombing because of your infantile, unresolved wounds from being devalued. You didn't get it from mom. Borderline jumps in, gives it to you, and you feel healed. And it's not about being healed, it's just about being loved. That's all it is. I understand what you're saying, but I think you're misidentifying what is really going on. You go on to say, I remember specifically her saying, I want to heal all of your wounds, right? That's mom. Mom says, I want to kiss your boo-boos away. And then you go on to say, and all of that other nonsense. Interesting how you call it nonsense. Now I know why you're calling it nonsense. You're calling it nonsense because she didn't follow through with it. So therefore it's a lie, therefore it's nonsense. But your need to have all of your wounds healed and have somebody kiss your boo-boos is not nonsense. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in so much pain and you wouldn't be watching my channel. You go on to say, it baffles my mind how they can build someone up to the point of healing. Again, you're calling it a healing. You think, this is what people think, this is what drug addicts think. Drug addicts think that when they take heroin, they're healed, they're loved. You're misidentifying a feeling, an intense feeling with a healing. And when you say it baffles my mind how they can build someone up to the point of healing, that's extreme. You're not saying it baffles my mind how somebody can give you compliments and then turn the other way. You've jacked it up to a whole other level. They've completely, totally fixed you. They have healed everything within you. By what? Simply by appealing to your ego. So here's what I get from that. You have not followed my advice. You love my channel, I can tell, because you use the right nomenclature that I use. But you haven't followed my advice. Not completely. Because you also say it baffles my mind how they can build someone up and then tear them all down. Really? That's baffling to you? So what you're really saying is it baffles you that somebody can be hurtful to you. Again, this is child. This is infantile. This is little kids don't understand it. Adults understand it. Little kids don't. So what this means is that you had pre-existing narcissistic devaluation disorder from childhood. So all she's doing is she's just reopening the unhealed wounds from your childhood. And again, when you say it baffles your mind that they do that, that tells me that you don't understand what BPD is. And people who have narcissistic devaluation disorder don't. If you've been devalued to the point where you're in a cycle of pain from a borderline, it means you don't understand what's going on with them. Because if you did, it wouldn't hurt you. You go out swimming and you get bit by a shark that bite your leg off, it's going to ruin your life, but you don't take it personally. You're not going to get mad at the shark. You're not going to go, I don't understand why that shark bit my leg off. Well, you're going to know it's a shark, and that's what sharks do. They eat food and they eat people and they eat other, and they don't, it's nothing personal. They can't help it. That's an instinct. So the fact that you don't understand why borderlines do what they do means you don't understand BPD. The reason why you don't understand it is because you're still wanting them to love you. And if you still want them to love you, it means you haven't followed my advice. If you followed my advice to the letter, completely, you will be completely healed. And we'll talk about that at the end of the video. So you say, my question to you, you say, Mike, my question to you is, why do they nearly always try to come back when you start to forget about them and heal? That is a very good question. I'm going to answer that. So we'll get to it, but I thought we would go through the whole process because I want to explain to you my understanding of, in my experience, based on my research, my observation, and my experience, of what's going on with a borderline. I've broken it down into 11 steps. This isn't, don't take me to task. I'm not writing a psychological, thesaurus or, I'm just giving you my understanding. I think it's accurate. It doesn't have to always go in this order, in all these ways, but everything I'm going to talk about is involved in virtually every borderline interaction. So we're going to talk about how it starts and how it gets to that point where you are. And I am going to answer your question about how they psychically know when you're starting to come out of it. As soon as you start to feel like you're starting to get your bearings, they right back. When you need them, when you want them, if that lasts 6 months, 6 months you're absolutely obsessed with them and you want them and you can't live without them, they're nowhere to be found. But the moment you start to go, you know what, I'm just going to get on with my life, and you start having things and doing things and you stop obsessing on them, whatever they call that, the reverie, that the obsession stops for just a couple of days and boom, they're right back. Why is that? So let's get right into it. How borderlines infect you with narcissistic devaluation disorder. Number 1, targeted seduction based on pre-existing narcissistic devaluation disorder. What did I say? I could tell by the way, I can always tell from your comments if you followed my suggestions, always. It's not because I'm psychic. It's because somebody who is still in narcissistic devaluation disorder, they're still being infected by it. Their thoughts are always the same. Their questions are always the same. There's a set of very specific tells. So just know that. If you really want to ask me a question, I'm going to know if you've done the work. By the way, if you follow my suggestions to the letter, you'll never have any questions. Your questions will get answered, or the need for those questions to be answered will completely disappear if you follow my instructions. I know this person hasn't, because they're asking this question. All right, so what did I say? Targeted seduction based on pre-existing narcissistic devaluation disorder. So as I was pointing at, is that it's clear that you weren't complete when you met this person. If you were complete and full of self-love and self-empowerment, and you didn't have narcissistic devaluation disorder, or NDS, as I guess I should start calling it. If you didn't have NDS, they wouldn't target you. So they only go after you if you've got the same wound that they have. Now, you don't have a personality disorder. You aren't suffering from a mental illness. But they absolutely, again, a shark is a good example, because a shark can smell blood in the water. I don't know how many, miles away. They can smell the blood. They go after it. They don't go after something that's not a good prey. Wolves don't chase after the biggest buck in the herd. They chase after the sick, the weak, and the infants. So if a narcissist or borderline is coming after you, it means that you're already wounded. You can tell me till you're blue in the face that you're not. There's no way that they came looking after you if you didn't already have a wound that they related to, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for food. And by the way, if you're a borderline and you're getting all bent out of shape because of what I'm saying, none of this is personal. But the truth is that I have the most empathy for anybody out there. For me, if I could heal one illness, it would by far be borderline personality disorder. It's a horrific thing to live through. The pain is horrible. No human should have to go through it. What you've gone through and what you've been through in order to end up where you are, no person should have to go through that. You didn't deserve that. It is horrible. So I don't have anything negative. I'm not judging you. I'm not saying anything negative. But the truth of the matter is that the people who harmed you also had been severely wounded and damaged, and they didn't deserve it either. And they hurt you. So guess what? You're hurting other people, whether you realize it or not. And the people that you hurt don't deserve it either. So I'm handing out the truth all the way around. So don't get, and if you are a borderline, based on my observation, I don't know because I don't have BPD, but based on my observation and research, if you do DBT therapy on a regular basis, and you go to DBT group therapy on a regular basis, and if you do daily DBT workbook exercises, if you do that, then you can achieve enough recovery that you might even be able to have a healthy relationship. So I'm not saying that it's an incurable mental illness. I mean, I am saying that it is incurable. I say that sort of loosely, but you can recover. Let's just be clear about that. Those of you who have borderlines or borderline X's and you're foaming at the mouth because you can't wait to tell them what you just heard me say, let me just tell you that it is almost guaranteed that they won't get healed because of you. The kindest thing you can do if you're with a borderline is to say, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. This relationship is very toxic to me. If you're interested, DBT therapy, I hear, works really well. I wish you all the best. And then you go complete no contact, because if they don't get therapy because they want to, if they get it because you told them to do it, it won't stick. And it'll take years. So you'll be wasting your time waiting around. So unless you're willing to wait around a decade, better just get on with your own life. All right. So what is the 11-step process again? Targeted seduction. So they target you and seduce you based on your pre-existing narcissistic devaluation disorder. You can't get targeted if you're not wounded. Number 2, the idealization phase. This activates your latent intermittent reinforcement addiction. Let's talk about it. People talk about intermittent reinforcement. What they don't tell you is that it is an addiction. You're addicted. You want to blame them because they're using intermittent reinforcement on you to keep you trauma bonded to them. But I would change the word trauma bond to trauma addiction. You have to take responsibility or the healing won't come. And addiction is more accurate, because here's what happens. They target you and they seduce you. Now, we just saw it here. This person says in the comment that the love bombing was so amazing that it completely, totally fixed all of their boo-boos. Nobody can fix you like mom. Nobody. So that's what you're telling me. When they love bombed you, you felt like mommy was kissing all of your boo-boos away. Nobody can do that. That is going to create a bond. A bond that is unbreakable. There is no bond stronger between an infant and the mother. Nothing. So that's what you're saying, is that it reintroduces that need that obviously never got met, and you become bonded to them. You say it fixes what the world does to me. The world abuses me and this fixes it. But it creates a bond that is unbreakable. Now, once that bond is created, then they can do anything they want and you'll never leave. You get a dog, right? You know, put your dog and your wife in the trunk of your car and leave for an hour. When you open up the trunk again, the only person that's going to kiss your face is the dog, because the dog needs you no matter what. The dog will love you no matter what you do to it. Your wife, on the other hand, she's going to call the cops. So this is you. Once you get that, according to you, that love bombing, once you get that targeted seduction that bonds you to them, doesn't matter what they do now. They can do anything they want, and you'll never leave. You might complain, but you're never going to leave. So it creates that intermittent reinforcement addiction. The intermittent reinforcement is that you get the love bombing. Once the bond is created, they begin their abuse, and or they begin their devaluation, and or they begin their ghosting, whatever it is that they do. It's abusive. But all that does is it makes you want them even more. So you chase after them even more. You start obsessing over them. You start watching my channel and asking me questions. Why doesn't she do this? What does it mean when they do that? As though me telling you the answer to that is somehow going to either fix the problem or give you the ability to keep them around. None of that is true. This watching this video isn't going to give you any. Look, you can prove to me that you're dead serious about healing by as soon as I tell you this, finish this paragraph, you're going to stop watching this video, go to the link at the bottom of the go to the link at the bottom of this list here, ppgrecoveredcodependence.org. Follow all of the instructions, and you'll never have to ask any more questions. What's that? You're still watching? I'm so shocked. All right, so it creates a bond that is, in your mind, life and death, because the bond with the mother is life and death. That's why I remember being 4 years old and being in the grocery store and losing my mom. And it was a really tiny store. She was on the other side of the aisle, just, feet away from me. But I turned around and she was gone, and I started crying because I was going to die without my mom. It happens to little kids all the time. This is what happens. You get bonded to them. They love bomb you. Mommy kisses all of your wounds. All of your old need for mom comes up. You become bonded. And now that bond is about survival. You think it's about love and blah, but it's not. It's about actual survival. Your nervous system feels that without her you will die. So she discards, she pulls away, and you can't live without her. At some point, she comes back and hoovers you, or gives you some sex, or gives you some more love bombing, and now you're back into it. It's intermittent reinforcement, trauma bonding, and it's an addiction. It never goes away on its own, ever. All right, so targeted seduction based on number 2, idealization, activation of latent intermittent reinforcement addiction. Notice I said latent. You've already got it. Your mom did it to you. You're still addicted to her. Sorry. Number 3, love bombing. This is what you want to talk about. Let's talk about what love bombing is. Love bombing is not love. It's training you for transactional objectification. You, in your comment, you believe that love bombing is love. You even say, the worst part about BPD love bombing. I don't know about everybody's case, but in mine, it made me feel as though the societal narcissistic devaluation had been reversed. I remember specifically her saying, I want to heal all of your boo-boos, wounds, and all of that other nonsense. So you believe that love bombing is the same as love. What is love? Love is when you want what is best for the other person objectively because it's what is good for them. That's love. Did you notice that I didn't say anything about feeling? Did you notice I didn't say anything about making them feel a certain way? That definitely can be part of it. But what I'm doing right now is love. Unconditional love. I am telling you the truth, knowing that the majority of you aren't going to like it, knowing that the majority of you aren't going to follow through, and knowing that the majority of you are going to feel as though I am attacking and devaluing you because I'm not telling you what you want to hear. Borderlines don't realize I'm loving them objectively as well. I tell them the hard truth that nobody else will tell them, that they won't tell themselves. I love them unconditionally. I know they're going to call me horrible names. I know they're going to devalue me. I know they're going to troll me on this channel. I know that's going to happen. So love isn't about a feeling. You think it is. How do I know that? Because you said so. You said that in my case, it made me feel. It made me feel. Nowhere are you talking about her continued desire for your objective healing. You wanted her to make you feel better. Again, who does that? Mommy does that. 4-year-olds need to feel better. Mommy makes them feel better. You have conflated mommy meeting the needs of your nervous system with actual adult, unconditional love. Love bombing has nothing to do with love. Nothing whatsoever. Not only is it just about how they're making you feel in the moment, which doesn't mean anything in the long run. It's nice. Who doesn't like to be made to feel good? I do. But it doesn't mean anything in the long run. But the other thing you're not getting about love bombing is that it is training you for transactional objectification. It is a transactional love. You don't know that yet. You love, you who are the victim in this. She love bombed me. I'm a victim, and you don't know, both like mom, and mom went away. I understand that. You don't understand how selfish that is. Let me be clear. It's okay to have this need, and it is definitely okay for little kids to have their neurological, emotional, immediate needs met. Absolutely, they deserve that. If they get that, they'll grow up to be healthy people. So there's nothing wrong with needing that, and there's nothing wrong with getting that from a love partner. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's the greatest thing. I love doing that for my partners, and I love receiving that. But it's not love. You're conflating feeling good in the moment with love. Love is something else. So what love bombing does is first off, it appeals for your childish transactional need. You need them to give you what you want, when you want it, how you want it. So what's interesting is that what you complain about them doing later, you complain about them being infantile and selfish and all of that. But you're the one that started. Because when you get love bombed and you don't have narcissistic devaluation disorder and you don't have a pre-existing unhealed wound from childhood, and you get love bombed, you get the opposite reaction. You get love bombed, either the person's narcissistic, takes it and walks away, or they get creeped out by it. If you get love bombed and you don't get creeped out by it, it means that you're wounded. And it means that you are narcissistically, childishly seeking transactional love. You want them to give you what you want when you want it. And then in exchange, you'll give them what they want. That's not love. It's transactional. And it means that you don't have any value. So what you're saying, you don't know this. But just because you respond to love bombing in such a huge way, like it completely, totally fixes you on every level, it means that you are seeking for somebody to give you what you want instead of seeking, how can I help this person live their best life? Now you'll go on and say, you don't understand, I think about her all the time and I just want her to be happy. Yeah, that's called codependent love bombing. Codependents make people happy so that they can get what they want. They can get approval, they can get love, they can get all that. It's transactional. If you get your needs completely, totally met from somebody you just met who love bombed you, it absolutely means you don't know who they are. You can't know somebody. You can't know them and love them simply because they exist when you just met them. Not in the third dimension. It doesn't work like that. So, love bombing is not love. It's training you for transactional objectification. She's going to do the same thing to you. It's a transaction. All right. Number 4, codependent projection of infantile need for maternal love. Promises. All right. So this is what she does next. So after she love bombs you, she's then going to project onto you her codependent infantile need for maternal love. And this will result in promises. We talked about this. She said, I remember specifically her saying, I want to heal all of your wounds. So she promised. She's setting up a transactional scenario. She says, I want to heal all of your wounds. She just met you. She hasn't been with you long enough to want to do that. I already know that. That was certainly the case for me. She had just met me, and my borderline said the same stuff, made me those promises. And by the way, I had the same response you did. That's how I know what's going on inside of you. I had the same response. I'm no different than you. So when she says, I want to heal all of your wounds, that is called projection. What is projection? It means that that's what she wants for herself. Now, this need is so deep and it is so powerful that she's not able to consciously realize that this is her need. So she projects it. One of the things that borderlines say when I point out to people that, listen, based on my research, based on other psychologists, based on experience, based on all of that, borderlines are really, in essence, they're no different from people with NPD. It's the same wound. The difference is that the person with NPD creates a perfect fantasy within themselves. You're an object walking around in third dimension. They snapshot you in their mind. They create a character where you're the perfect worshiper that makes them feel fixed. Then in the external world, they train you. They love bomb you. They create that trauma bond, and they do intermittent reinforcement and all of that. And while they're doing that, they create that need in you so that you will let go of your needs and your identity. And then in their mind, they'll be able to create the perfect stick figure that then they can import into their internal fantasy. And then when you do exactly what you're supposed to do, then they will feel better. Of course, that won't work. It never does. So that's the NPD. It's an internal manifestation. So it's really clear to see the manipulation and the objectification from an NPD. Borderlines are much harder to identify at first because their desire is exactly the same. But instead of having an internal fantasy, an internal show where they see you, a walking stick figure in the third dimension that they grab and then they pull into their fantasy, borderline flips it. The borderline's fantasy is external. So they externalize their fantasy. And instead of looking for perfect worshipers, they seek to be the perfect devotee. They seek to gain their value by worshiping you perfectly. Now, here's where the narcissistic devaluation occurs. You are supposed to be perfect. You are supposed to be God. The narcissist says, I'm God, worship me. The borderline says, you're God, I'm going to be the perfect worshiper. Now, if they're the perfect worshiper, what ends up happening? You will love them, you will expand and turn into your amazing godlike powers, and with those powers, you will regulate all of her feelings. You will fix her. So they have empathy. They have all kinds of vulnerable feelings. The narcissist does not reveal their vulnerable feelings externally because their fantasy is internal. The borderline's fantasy is external, so they have all of their vulnerable feelings. They feel empathy. They project onto you. They say, I want to fix all of your wounds. That's a projection. They want you as God to heal their wounds. So this is them setting you up. It's a setup. They mean what they say, so they're not lying to you. The narcissist might lie to you. They don't always do this, by the way. But the narcissist might know, okay, to get this person in my internal fantasy, I need to lie to them, get them so that I can get control of them. Borderlines, of course, do this as well, but the scenario you're talking about, she meant everything that she said. She said, I want to heal all of your wounds, but it was a projection. And so what she wants is for you to heal all of her wounds. And what they do is they play out. It's like lovemaking. The act of physical lovemaking, among other things, what partners do is they're showing the other partner what they want, how fast they move. You respond and you move as fast or as slow oftentimes because they're telling you what they physically want, what they physically need, and that stimulates you to respond in kind. That's what a borderline is doing. I want to heal all of your wounds. She's telling you what you're supposed to do. In the moment, she means what she says because she thinks if she can heal all of your wounds, which again is incredibly childish, it has nothing to do with love. It has to do with immediate meeting somebody's childish, narcissistic, nervous system, emotional needs in the moment. It's got nothing to do with long-term love. Long-term love means I'm committed to you for the rest of your life, and I'm going to be there and be what is most objectively helpful for you from now until eternity. Whether I feel like doing it or whether you love me in return doesn't have any meaning to me. It's not what she's saying. She's saying, I'm going to fix all of your wounds, therefore you're going to get bonded to me, and then you're going to do that to me. You're going to regulate all of my feelings. That's what she means by I'm going to fix all of your wounds, is I'm going to regulate all of your feelings. And they figure that out in the beginning. My borderline ex, she had me in tears. She played the perfect role of mommy and did things that my ex-wife never did. And she would cook me food. She would be the perfect wife. Cook me food, give me back rubs, give me foot rubs, best sex ever, right? That only lasted for a short period of time. Because what she was doing is she was doing two things. She was saying, look at how perfect I am. Please accept me, give me value. My value is based on what I do for you, not for who I am. Don't look at who I am, look at what I do. And also, now do this for me. I did it for you, now it's your turn. The problem is, once they do it the first time, they won't do it again. Except maybe sometimes when they're hoovering. But the first love bombing, the first idealization phase, nothing ever comes back to that. It's never the same, because in the idealization phase, they don't know you. They haven't experienced feeling disappointed by you yet. So they're still idealizing you. So because they're idealizing you, they're investing everything they have in the love bombing and the idealization, because they honestly believe that you are going to, you're going to turn into God. And then they will get on their knees and worship you, and they will be completely, totally fixed. And of course, you don't become God. And then the problems start to happen. So, codependent projection of infantile need. This is the promises are codependent unconscious projection of their infantile need for maternal love. That's why. You want to know why they promise? That's why. They're projecting onto you what they unconsciously need and want from their abusive mother. What they're doing to you is they're really trying to love bomb their abusive mother. They still have hope that mom will one day realize, this is a beautiful little baby. I'm going to love her. That's what they're hoping. Never happens. So they're projecting that onto you. Borderlines never see you as an equal. They see you as a god, and they see you as a parent. They always parentify you. So all of this is parentifying you. You, because you are a person with narcissistic devaluation syndrome, because you didn't get what you needed as a kid, you're doing the same thing to them. You're parentifying them. So they play the part of being the perfect parent in the beginning, but it's a projection. Here's what I want you to do. Let me show you. So after the projection of infantile need for maternal love, the promises, which is part of the idealization process, then the idealization collapses. and the BPD's realization of your vulnerable needs. You're not God anymore. God doesn't have any vulnerable needs. God needs to be worshipped. Again, we're talking about the Abrahamic God. God needs to be worshipped, but when God is worshipped appropriately, what does God do? I mean, look at the Ten Commandments is perfect. The Old Testament is perfect. It's a two-dimensional narcissist. Jehovah is a narcissist, period, end of story. Nobody throws you in hell forever because of being imperfect if they're not a narcissist. So that idealization collapses because Jehovah is the perfect fantasy of a narcissist. Omniscient, omnipotent, invulnerable, meaning they don't have any needs, they don't have any wounds, they don't have any weak spots, they don't have any failings. I don't need you. I can throw you into hell without thinking twice about it. I can create you into the perfect, whatever human, as long as you meet all of my narcissistic transactional needs. This is what the borderline is expecting from you, to be this perfect. That's why they like narcissists, by the way. One of the reasons they like narcissists is because narcissists project, they say, I am God, I am the perfect God, I have no needs, I have no wounds, you must do what I say. And the borderline says, where do I sign up for that? I don't have to be intimate, I don't have to have emotional intimacy, I just have to be the perfect worshiper and you'll fix all of my needs because of your immense power. Where do I sign up? That's why they do that. And that's why if you're not a narcissist, they will discard you. My borderline ex had a narcissist ex-boyfriend she was with for years, and he did all kinds of things with her and to her for years, and I didn't understand why she discarded me so quickly. Well, it's because I actually loved her. I loved her unconditionally. And I had mortal needs. I had vulnerable feelings and vulnerable needs. And they say they want that, but they don't. Not really. Not eventually. So the idealization of you collapses. The borderline realizes that you have vulnerable needs. You're no longer the perfect God. Number 6, the borderline sees unlovable infant self in your vulnerable needs, and they split on you. Want to know why they split on you? Because you have needs. It's not because you didn't do something that they said you didn't do. They didn't split on you because you said something mean, or because you looked at them a certain way, or because they've realized that you're planning to destroy them. Those are all things, we'll talk about what that happens, but those are all false. You know it's crazy, the things that they say. It's completely, totally getting pulled out of absolute nowhere. Those aren't the reasons. You think they are because you've bought into the transactional love that as long as I do what she wants and requires, she'll love me. And you believe that. So it's confusing to you because you've learned how to do what she wants, when she wants, how she wants it. But you've also opened up and had honest, real love. The moment after the pillow talk, the moment after, you've just opened up your deepest feelings, which she dug in and asked for, and she ate those up and then said, oh my God, you're the most perfect person. My borderline said, this is a quote, you're the best because you do all the things, with a little baby voice. You're my favorite person because you do everything that I want, is the translation. Transactional love, again. So anyway, how did I get on that? So the borderline sees her unlovable infant self. By the way, borderlines can be both male and female. Please, get your panties, don't get all bent out of shape, because of the pronouns. Men can be borderlines too. Okay, can we just get over that? It's just easier for me to do her because her is vulnerable. Narcissists are invulnerable, that's their fantasy. Borderlines are vulnerable, that's their fantasy. That's more feminine. That's why I use the word. It has nothing to do with gender. Get over it. All right, the borderline sees their unlovable infant self in your vulnerable needs. They see themselves. Now, in an adult human, an adult healthy human, when they see other people's wounds, their own wounds in somebody else, when they see their own needs, their own vulnerable needs in someone else, it stimulates an empathic, loving response. Again, this is why borderlines, they call themselves super empaths. But if they were truly empathic, they would never split. They would never discard. They would never attack. They would never devalue. The only reason that you judge, split, attack, devalue is because, once again, you are projecting. So the thing that you guys aren't getting, I didn't get it either. You think love bombing comes from somewhere. It is projection. Projection is the opposite of love. Projection is narcissistic, transactional devaluation. It is projection. What they fall in love with is their own needs. They fall in love with the idea of meeting their own needs. Borderlines will say, you don't understand, I'm full of empathy. When I think of what happens to the poor animals in this world, when I think of what happens to the poor children in this world, I cry and I weep. What's happening is they're seeing in somebody that's not close to them, that's not them, far off in the distance, I'm seeing pain happen in somebody, and it's stimulating my own unresolved pain. And instead of crying for my own wounds and healing it, I cry for their wounds. Because again, borderlines love animals because animals never judge you. Animals never see you. They always idealize you. So borderlines can have cats and dogs and they love that. You're different. You're different. They can't project onto you in a healthy human way. They can't have true empathy because when you have a vulnerable need, for instance, they say something hurtful to you, and your response is, wow, that really hurts. The empathic response is, you know what, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, that would have hurt me if somebody said that to me. Is that what they say? No. When they start attacking you, and you start to have feelings, and your eyes well up with tears, or you start to get hurt, or you start to get angry, what does it do? It makes them even more narcissistically, psychopathically abusive. So borderlines, you want to talk about being an empath. An empath is somebody who never lets go of their empathy. Empathy is not sympathy, by the way. The other thing, projection is sympathy. So empaths and people who claim to be super empaths will say, you don't understand, I'm full of empathy. I walk into a room and I'm gravitated to the most painful person in there, and I have to help them. Not like other people. I have to help the most wounded person because I have so much empathy. Or I can't go out in public because other people's pain and other people's anger, I can feel it, and it'll ruin my mood because I can't have my own feelings, and the feelings are so loud I can't hear my own feelings. Well, that's called sympathy. Sympathy means pathy means emotions, sympathy means same. So it means that you have other people's feelings. It may make you cry. It doesn't mean you have empathy for them. It gives you squishy feelings, may want you to pick up the puppies and hug them. Doesn't mean that you have empathy for them. Empathy means you feel within. It means that you can look at somebody else, you can hate them, you can feel homicidal rage towards them, you can feel disgust. But empathy says, however, my feelings aside, I know what that feels like, and I know that it would be really painful for them if I didn't act lovingly. So you do the opposite of what you're feeling. That's empathy. You can have empathy and be filled with love at the same time, but the point is it's irrelevant, the feeling that you have. Sympathy, on the other hand, means you have the same feelings as the other person. The person is filled with love, you're filled with love. The person is filled with pain, you're filled with pain. The person is sad, you're sad. The person is angry, you're angry. The person is afraid, you're afraid. That's called sympathy. That's not being an empath. If you're truly an empath, it means you can walk into a room filled with people who have all different kinds of feelings. You might even be able to sense and feel those feelings, but you have your own feelings. You have your own sense of self, and you respond from your own internal values. If you end up responding emotionally or in actions based on other people's feelings, it means that you have sympathy. It's not a badge of honor to say, I'm a super empath. I walk in a room and I feel everybody's feelings. I see somebody sad, it makes me cry. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't mean anything. I have sympathy and empathy for all of you, and I know that you don't like what I'm telling you right now. I'm interested in your long-term healing. I don't need you to like me. I don't need you to approve of me. I don't need you to watch my channel. I keep telling you to stop watching my videos and go do the one thing. You still keep coming back. You know? So if it was anyway. So the idealization collapse, the borderline's realization of your vulnerable needs. The borderline sees their unlovable infant self in your vulnerable needs. So bear in mind, the borderline as a child was punished for their vulnerable needs. When they were a little baby and they cried, they got hit, they got yelled at, they got put in a corner. You know, so many borderline mothers will go out in the car and, you know, smoke a cigarette until the child stops screaming. You know, they can't tolerate it. So the borderline, was either confused or was punished or was abandoned, discarded, neglected. So they learned that their vulnerable feelings are not just undesirable, they are worthy of destruction. So the borderline, this is why borderlines self-delete, because at the core they've bought into the belief that they have zero value, and in fact their desires and their needs makes them unlovable. Again, you want to talk about religion? What does Jehovah say? Jehovah hates sin. What is sin? People act out negatively based on their own internal vulnerable needs. Jehovah can't tolerate that, because as a narcissist, he can't tolerate his own vulnerable needs. So when human beings show weakness, they show imperfection, they show vulnerable needs, he becomes homicidally rageful and he throws them in hell, or covers them in boils, or sends plagues. This is now the borderline has become the psychopath. So we'll talk about that, the internal psychopath that they have. You didn't know this. You think that when you meet them that they don't have inside of them this hidden psychopath. And the psychopath will come out the moment that they see themselves in you. The moment that they have the beginnings of empathy. True empathy. Their empathy, when they feel it, their response to that is to destroy you. Because they're trying to destroy themselves. It's a projection. And we'll talk about it here. So the BPD sees their unlovable infant self in your vulnerable needs, and they split. The BPD projects self-hatred onto you, triggering your intermittent reinforcement addiction. And then this creates for them psychic supply. All right. So what I was about to say, I'll go to the next point and then we'll go back. Seeking to please the abusive introject, the BPD internal psychopath appears. So an introject. Project means that you're putting outside of yourself. Introject means that you put within. So what the borderline and the narcissist and mom and dad and God That's why all of these beings have so much power, is they create an introject within you. A little version of themselves gets placed within you. And in the case of a narcissist, an abuser, a borderline, it becomes like some kind of mind worm that burrows its way into you and abuses you, right? So the introject gets in there, and so the borderline's abusive mother gave her the feeling that if she wants her mother's love, she must abuse herself. And so what happens is, if you want to know what happens when they split on you, so inside the mind of the borderline, here's what happens. Now, borderlines watching, you don't even know that you do this. There are some borderlines that get back at me and say, you have no idea what you're talking about. No, you're just unconscious about this. This is what happens. I'm sorry you don't like it. I'm not the only person that says it, by the way. Other, like Sam Vaknin and others will give you a similar understanding. So what ends up happening is that the infant, this is why we need to grow up, because if you don't grow up, you will be forever bonded like an infant to your mother. So the infant, then the first thing they have to do is please the mother in the hopes that the mother will keep them alive. It's a nervous system need, and they can't tell the difference. That's why they think that you're killing them, by the way. They've accused you of wanting to kill them or tried to kill them. They think you're killing them because when they go through the fear of being rejected, it feels like absolute physical death. The kind of death that an infant is feeling. That kind of terror. So their first need is their hope as an infant to do whatever it is that's going to please the mother so that the mother will love me and keep me alive. So you end up being a threat when you love them. This is why you should walk away from a borderline, because you think if you just meet their needs, they'll love you. That's your projection of your mother onto them. The opposite is true with an untreated borderline. If you actually love them, like you love them truly, unconditionally, and you're able to give true intimacy, which they've never, ever had. That's why they want it more than anything else. But if you give it to them, it will create a rebellion inside of them. Their introject will flip out. Because in their unconscious mind, you now become a threat to the mother's control of the infant. So in her mind, she wants mom's love. Because if mom loves her, she won't die. But mom has also given her the feeling that mom has homicidal rage towards her infantile needs for intimacy. So if you, as an adult who's not the mother, as somebody else, the interloper, if you come in and give her intimacy, you then supersede the mother. And that is blasphemy, because her mother is God. It would be the same as blaspheming against God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So if you become her love and she falls in love with you, that means she has to distance herself from her mother's love. And the homicidal introject mother inside of her won't tolerate that. Got it? So God becomes furious and starts raining down plagues and throws you in hell. This is also why they monkey branch. They're with you, you give them real intimacy. They can't tolerate that. So understand this, that when they come after you every time they love bomb you, they're monkey branching, even if they're single. If they're single and they see you and they love bomb you, it's their monkey branching away from their introjected mother. Their introjected psychopathic mother. Maybe their mother wasn't psychopathic. Some person said, I know for a fact this woman is a borderline and her mother wasn't a psychopath. We don't know that because borderlines are secondary psychopaths. You walk around, you can be friends with a borderline, if they're able to function in the external world. You may never see their secondary psychopath. The love interest will always see the secondary psychopath. But a friend, an acquaintance, a coworker, they may never see it. You're the boyfriend of the borderline, you may never see the introjected. You may never see the mother's secondary psychopath. All right, I'm getting lost in the weeds here. The BPD projects self-hatred onto you, triggering your intermittent reinforcement addiction. So when they split on you, so shorten it up a little bit, you get love bombed, you get bonded to them, you start to fall in love. It's a mutual idealization fest, and then your love for her grows, your needs emerge, your vulnerable needs emerge, you start to really want intimacy and connection. This triggers her fear of enmeshment, which is really, it's not a fear of enmeshment, it's a fear of being destroyed, because she knows from experience that when she wanted this from her mother destroyed her. Her mother became, secondary psychopath and hurt her. So she knows that when she feels that she's going to receive love, the opposite is going to happen. She then tries to protect herself. The other thing that's going on is that you're also the one who's trying to take away her love of God, which is her mother, and you're blaspheming, and how dare you, you're the devil, you're trying to tempt me and take me to hell, right? Because what does the devil represent? The devil says, do what you want, feed your lust, feed your desires, right? Be selfish. And God says, how dare you be selfish? You're being tempted by the devil, I'm now going to curse you and throw you both in hell. So you become the devil because you come along. This is why, again, they love narcissists, because narcissists never give them what they truly want. They never give them intimacy. They never give them true love. They act like the abusive parent. That's why they love narcissists. You're not a narcissist. You are a codependent. You have unresolved, what did I call it? Narcissistic devaluation syndrome. So you're capable of love, even though you're still very narcissistic and you have all kinds of other, two-dimensional selfish issues. You do have the ability to give intimacy and to give love and to commit. But when you do that, again, you become the bad object. You become the devil who's trying to take her away from her narcissistic God that she worships. And also, if she turns you into God, and creates you as the one, then she absolutely knows that you're going to destroy her, and so she has to protect herself. This is when the secondary psychopath comes out. A psychopath is, by the way, not all narcissists are psychopaths. So, when I say that borderlines have narcissistic personality disorder, the first thing that a defensive borderline will say is, how can you say that? I am not a psychopath. I am not a... First off, that's not true. You can't be a borderline without having a secondary psychopath. But being a narcissist doesn't mean you're a psychopath. There are, I know because I've experienced them, there are narcissists who come across as very just chronically codependent, but they're not. They have NPD, they're narcissists. And there are things called communal narcissists who spend their whole lives giving to others and martyring themselves. But they're still narcissists. They're not psychopaths. They're narcissists, though. Anyway, so I got lost in the weeds again. All right, so seeking to please the abusive introject, the psychopathic godmother in her brain, the BPD internal psychopath appears, protecting them from imminent death. So after the initial discard, the borderline senses your recovery and hoovers you. This is, finally, I'm getting to answer your question. How is it that, why do they nearly always try to come back when you start to forget about them? Well, because they have a psychic bond with you. When you are in intermittent reinforcement addiction, again, here's what happens. You project your childish needs onto her. She responds she love bombs you, and you respond by projecting your childish, vulnerable needs onto her. Fix my boo-boos. She says, yes, I want to heal all of your boo-boos. You're the best. I love you. You're God. And you go, oh my God, I am God. That's true. I am the best. Oh my God, somebody finally sees me for who I am. And you're bonded now at the level of a wounded child who needs mommy in order to survive. It's not just about being loved. It's about surviving. And so now I'm going to live and be okay because mommy's loving me. And that creates a bond. Once that turns into some real vulnerable intimacy, she splits on you, she turns around, she starts abusing you. That creates a stronger need for her, because what would you do? What would an infant do if you placed an infant on a rock and walked away? What happens when you're 4 years old and your mom disappears? You start crying. You need mom more than ever now. So when they split on you, your response isn't to go, wow, a normal response would be, wow, what a bitch. She told me how wonderful I was. She told me how much she loved me. And then when I loved her, she treated me like crap. I'm not doing this. Forget this. That's not what you did. You went, oh my God, my mom is abandoning me. I'm going to die. And then no matter how long she's away, it doesn't matter. As long as that intermittent reinforcement attachment is there, it won't matter if it's a week or if it's 10 years. You'll still be thinking about her. You'll still be obsessed about her. And as long as you're obsessed and as long as you're thinking about her, psychically, she is feeding off of you. Your supply. She's already with some other guy. She's already discarded him and she's with somebody else. But she can unconsciously, at the very least, unconsciously feel your need. I'll give you an example. With my borderline ex, she routinely sat down with me and opened up her Facebook and showed me all of her ex-boyfriends. Now, she would tell me how horrible they were and how great I was so that I didn't feel jealous, but then she would talk about them and what they were doing, and it became clear to me that she would reject these guys, because I'd ask questions and I'd find out that she would reject them. And that they were still into her, years or months later, and that she would watch this to refeed. Now, she wasn't going to connect with them because she's discarded them. They've disappointed her to such a degree she doesn't want them back, because they're going to want something from her. They're going to want love. They're deeply wounded and need her love, or they think they do. She doesn't want that, but she wants to go and feed off of the knowledge that they're still connected to her psychologically. So that's why you're her narcissistic supply. Now, the moment that you start to get your sense of self back, they start to feel that. It's like the supply is leaving, because they literally are getting spiritual energy from you. Psychologists can't say this because psychologists can't talk about it, but the truth is that they are. My borderline ex, again, she would do this during sex. It's only happened once. But we were having sex, and this weird thing happened, and I felt this energy come into me. And I said, what did you just do? And she had some word that she had for it. And I thought, oh, cool, I hope she keeps doing that. She never did it again. She was energetically hooking herself into me. So they will. They hook themselves into you. They get connected to your psychic energy. They are absolutely complicit in your what did I call it? Your intermittent reinforcement addiction. They absolutely, either consciously or unconsciously, want you to become energetically and psychically addicted to them. Then part of the feeding process is they discard you. They feed off of you psychologically. That's why you can't stop thinking about them. It's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons. So after the initial discard, the BPD senses your recovery and hoovers you. So when you're no longer feeding them, you're no longer a source of supply, that's when they go back to hoover you, because the hoovering is about psychically reconnecting, because you know they're going to discard you again. Once you've been discarded the first time, once they've split on you the first time, it never ever goes back to the way it was. You keep going back to them thinking that you're going to get them back to that initial state of idealization. That's your hope. That's your addiction. What happens when people take drugs? The first time they do it, it's the most amazing thing. And then every time they do drugs after that, they're trying to get back to that initial experience. And it's never as good. It always gets worse and less and less and worse and worse. Same thing is true for her. You're a drug. The first idealization is going to be the biggest. And once they come down off of that, even if they're hoovering you and they come back, even if they love bomb you, they're not idealizing you anywhere near the same way. If they are idealizing you, it dies much more quickly. The other real reason is that they are feeding off of you, and they hoover you so that they can get hooked back up on you. Once they got the hook back in, and you are now intermittent reinforcement addicted again, they will discard you. And they will keep doing that until there's nothing left. When it gets to the point that you have nothing left to give them, like you're incapable of then, pulling yourself back together, when you're completely, totally devastated, and all you are now is you have become them. All you are is you are a borderline who has nothing but need, and you need to be loved, and you need to be healed, and you don't have anything else to give. You just need, and you're ready to off yourself. When you get to that point, they will discard you permanently. They might also very psychopathically seek to destroy you. They might destroy your life. They might slash your tires. They might call the cops on you. They might get you thrown into jail. They might, horrible things. They if they can, and they're psychopathic enough, they will completely destroy your life. I know that it didn't happen with me, because number one, I left early. Number two, you're not going to get away with that kind of stuff with me. But some borderlines are so psychopathic that when they get to the final discard, they will absolutely, completely destroy, shred your life, totally shred your life. And anyway, some people have never seen anything like it. Anyway, so what's the solution? So after the initial discard, the BPD senses your recovery and hoovers you. The intermittent reinforcement addiction is fully activated, creating repeating cycle until final discard. After the final discard, your intermittent reinforcement addiction continues until healed with the 12 steps. So here's the thing. Time is not going to fix this. Watching my channel isn't going to fix this. Doesn't matter how many of my videos you watch, it's not going to give you any real lasting healing. There's only one thing that will break the intermittent reinforcement addiction, and that is working the 12 steps with a sponsor, all 12 of them in order, with a sponsor, and then sponsoring somebody else. When you do that, you will completely, totally break the intermittent reinforcement addiction. You will never have another question about them. You will have nothing but empathy for them. Empathy doesn't mean that you need them in your life. You'll be like, I don't know where she is, but you know what? I hope that she finds what she needs. I have nothing but love for her. I don't have any desire to have her in my life. I don't need her in my life. I don't know if she's alive or dead, happy or sad, completely out of my control. I personally don't care one way or another, but I do love her and I wish her all the best. Well, the reason why she did that to me was because she was very, very wounded, very damaged, and she couldn't help herself. And I have nothing but compassion, and nothing but empathy. That must have been very sad for her that she was like that. None of the why did she do that to me. What totally blows my mind is how they can be this way to you and then totally destroy you. I don't get that. Somebody needs to tell her, and I want her to be there. But maybe if I knew what it was that she needed, maybe she'd love me again. None of that will ever come back if you follow my suggestions. Work the 12 steps with a sponsor. You want to know how to do that? Go to www.ppgrecoveredcodependence.org. Go to an online or in-person meeting, and the first meeting, raise your hand and say, I'm new, I need a sponsor. Get the sponsor's contact information and follow their instructions. Make sure you go from 1 to 12, especially focusing on step 4 through 7. Keep doing 4 through 7, which is step 10, until you're completely free of your intermittent reinforcement addiction. And then you never have to think about that person ever again. That's it, my friends. I wish you all of the best. If you follow my instructions, you can be healed. Prove me wrong. I don't think you will. I think you won't follow my instructions. I think you'll keep watching my channel and get into all of the borderline porn. I think you'll watch a bunch of other channels about being an empath, or how the narcissist does this to you, and how to overcome the narcissist, and how to make the narcissist beg for you. I think you'll do that. But I would be very happy if you proved me wrong. So right now, go to ppgrecoveredcodependence.org, follow instructions, and then you never have to watch my channel again. That's it. You're invited to come onto my other channel for a live guided interdimensional meditation. I do this every Wednesday and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. This will also be very helpful for you. And that's it. I wish you all the best, my friends. See you all very soon.